Welcome back. The flu is really bad this season. Already in our state here in Washington, 86 people have died from the flu.
It's really not too late to get that flu shot. And Dr. Wendy Sue Swanson here to talk about the latest numbers and what we can all do to avoid getting sick. I guess the big question everybody wants to know, what can we all do to avoid the flu this year?
Well, first and foremost, I think, there's been a media blitz really talking about flu this last week or so, and in part because people are questioning the effectiveness of the vaccine. And I just want to say, the word is still out on how the United States version of the flu vaccine will line up. A lot of the data that's been talked about in the past couple of weeks really reflects Australian data and what's happening there with the strains, which I'll explain what that means, the type of influenza that's here, what's in the vaccine, and how it worked in Australia. And Australia can help us understand how it's going to work here in the United States, but it's not a perfect fit. So Australian research has found that that strain that you're hearing a lot about, H3N2, it's just a type of influenza. So there's all sorts of different flu or influenza, and the basically strains or the different tweaks in the virus we cover in the vaccine. This year, the mass that we're seeing of this large bump in influenza is mostly that H3N2. About 85% of the flu that's in the United States right now is that type H1N1, which people have also heard of, is about 10% of what's out there. Now, both of those components, both of those strains are in the vaccine this year. So we love that. That means that the matchup of the vaccine that was created and the strains that we're seeing circulating around and people coughing on each other, that's the virus that they're sharing. But each year, how that virus changes and tweaks and tries to survive is different. And the H3N2 tends to deviate and change itself a little bit faster than the other ones. So the news is not out, but we think about mid-February, the CDC will come out and explain how well is it a match. Last year, it matched up about 30%, meaning that if you got that shot and someone coughed all over you with H3N2, about a third of the time that vaccine would really protect you. And we know even if it doesn't, it will typically shorten the duration of the virus that you've got, like how long you're sick and how sick you are. So long answer to your question, but how do you protect yourself? You get everybody in your family immunized. You stay home when you're sick, which is hard for all of us, right? Keeping our kids home and then taking off time from work and staying home or staying away from people who are high risk. So I talked both with some emergency room doctors today saying, how busy are we at Children's? What's going on? Well, we are really busy. We're not as bad off as some of those states like California where people are in the hallways and outside in tents. But we do want you seen if you're high risk early, but staying home is really important. Covering your cough's really important. If you're high risk, now that means if you're over the age of 65 or you care for someone who's over 65, if you have children under the age of 5, that's considered high risk. If you're pregnant, if you have underlying lung problems like asthma, diabetes, underlying heart problems, if you get concerned that you get a high fever, chills and aches, cold, can't keep fluids down, coughing so hard it's hard to breathe, that's when we do want you in an emergency room. And you may want to see a doctor to get an antiviral medicine in those first 2 days.
It's interesting. I went to the doctor for a checkup this week.
Good for you.
I walked in.
Congrats. It's not even
No,
November.
I walked in and there was a sign that said,
Yeah.
sniffling, put on a mask.
Yep.
Not sniffling, put on a mask.
Yep.
They were saying everybody mask up, and it looked like I was walking into a SARS epidemic.
Well, yeah.
But I guess that's the thing to do.
Well, why not? We know that masks protect, those kinds of masks, those kind of over-the-counter masks, do a good job containing your own cough. So if you're sick, we don't want you to cough on people. Doesn't do as good of a job protecting someone like you wearing it without a cough, but it probably does a better job than nothing when you're in an environment where people might be sick.
There are people
we have
hacking all over.
lower activity. We have a map. I don't know if we can show that map. We have a little bit lower activity here in Washington State than the rest of the country. Most of the country is peaking right now all across. And we have lower levels here in Washington State, but we are seeing the peak levels that surpass where we even were last year. So quick reminders, flu vaccine, if you can get it for everyone in your family. The Department of Health, when I talked to them today, said one of the things that they want you to do is don't go visit the old folks in the old folks homes right now, even if you've got a tiny sniffle, because that could be influenza.
Wow.
Keep those long-term care facilities safe too. We'll have lots of links on king5.com and you can read all about that vaccine effectiveness too.